Today we're going to make this part in FreeCAD. I'm using FreeCAD Real Thunder version. Check the description, it's a little different. So, our general plan is going to be two sketches here. We're basically going to have a sketch that encompasses this section here, and then we will do a couple extrusions, and then I will make a sketch that encompasses this region here. And then once again we'll do a couple extrusions to achieve our final result. I will make a new part, create a sketch. I want to go on the top plane, that's the XY plane. Now for my origin point, I'm going to use this center right there, and then I will put it at the bottom. For one, there's this center line that goes through that point, and then there's also some dimensions, here, and then all of these dimensions that are across that center line, can just measure right from that point. So we'll start making some sketches. Alright, let's bring this up on the top now. So I'm going to type G and then C for a circle, or you can just click up in the toolbar, but I like using shortcuts. So I'm going to make those three circles. So it looks like the smallest one is 22, the middle one is 44, and the largest one is a radius of 35. So I can type over here my constraint arc or circle, click that. This outer one would be 35 times 2, which is 70. This one should be 44. And then this last one will be 22 millimeters. So I'm going to zoom a little out. Now for this slot over here, I will make that as a slot, and it is 65 wide and then 38 as well. So I can click this up here, create slot. The shortcut is G and then S, and you just want to pick on those 2 points, and then see right here there's that horizontal line. I want to make sure that shows up. So I can move this, but it's still horizontal. And those 2 points are on this horizontal axis. So similarly, I will add dimensions on there. You can use this button right here, constrain distance. That width needs to be 38 millimeters. And then from this edge right here to this center point is 65. And that's the same thing as just clicking on that line. So I just clicked on that line, type 65 and enter. And we also know this should be 90 millimeters from the origin. So I'll click on that point and then click on the vertical axis, type in 90. I'm going to add in a line that is kind of tangent over here. And then I will add in this line and then connect this down to the slot that we just made. So type G and then L, which is the line tool up here. I'll click this, and then click this. And you see this last one actually just snapped a little bit, so it is a little helpful. Now one other quick thing is you can use a polyline tool. That's this icon right here, and it's more of just a continuous line. So that one's helpful as well. Now this might look like it is tangent from a distance, but I want to make sure that it is. So you can either click on the line and the arc. I prefer to click on the point and the arc. Sometimes you can get in trouble. For example, if I make these two tangent, this is tangent, but the point is not actually constrained on the arc. So sometimes you get a result like this, where it might look like it's tangent, but if you zoom way in, there's a gap. So that's why I always like to click the point and then the arc. So let's add in some more dimensions. I can use my angle constraint over here. The shortcut is K and then A for that one. click on the 2 points, the 2 lines that you want. So I use the horizontal axis as a reference. That should be 45 divided by 2. You can drag this over here. This 130. So I use distance constraint. Click this point, click this axis, 130 divided by 2. And that does in fact fully constrain everything we have. So I can exit my sketch. However, something you'll notice is we don't have a center line, so we should go back into the sketch and draw a center line, because then that will enclose this profile in here. So I'm going to double click back on my sketch. I'm just going to pick the line tool, and I can use this point. So I'll click there, and then if I zoom in a bit, you can see it shows us basically a preview of the constraints that will be added. So we have one that is making this point coincident on the arc, and then also one that is horizontal. So I just want to make sure that both of those are there. And you see, even if I'm a bit off, it will snap to that. And let's just check. We are fully constrained. So now I can close out of here. And this might look like a bit much if you're not used to sketching like this. So we know that this bottom portion needs to be extruded 20 millimeters right here. And then we know that this boss needs to be extruded 28 millimeters. I will pick this area of the sketch, just this one, click on pad, type in 20, and then OK that. So that's one part. Now I'm going to expand this pad and going to my sketch. And I'm going to select this section of it right here. Keep in mind we drew in the center line, so everything's cut in half. Because we're just going to draw half of this and then mirror everything across this center line. So I'll select this area and extrude that 28 millimeters. Click pad, same thing, type in 28, OK. It's starting to come together a little more. As far as getting this counter bore, there is a couple different ways of doing that. One way is basically if I select on this area, this profile right here. So if I open up my sketch, this area needs to be extruded 28 minus 13. And now if we look at the front here, we can see that does in fact line up. So that's one way of getting it. Another way is if I undo this, and if I just extruded all of this, I can click on this face, I can click the whole command, and I can just enter in these parameters right here. So I'll scroll down a little bit here. Diameter should be 22 millimeters. For the type, I want that to be through all. For a hole cut, I want a counter bore, 44 millimeter diameter, and 13 millimeter depth. I can OK that, look at the front plane, and that looks the exact same. That gives us the same result. So let's continue on here. So something that I realized we forgot is to add in this fillet right here. So obviously we could go in to an actual fillet command and add in our radius there. Or another way, depending on how you plan ahead, is you can just create an actual fillet in the sketch. You can click on the corner and that will create one. Then we would want to constrain that. Should be 170. close out of our sketch, and we can see that everything is still in the correct position. I found this version of FreeCAD is pretty good in terms of things not breaking down the line, but that is certainly not a guarantee, because we just added in another face and another couple edges in this model. So some things still could break down the line. There's just pros and cons to both ways. It really depends on what you want to do and how you think of the model. Once you get more familiar with using CAD, you will learn situations where you might want to use one versus the other. So I think for now, I'll undo that. Sometimes you need to refresh, rebuild your model. But in this case, I will add this back in and we'll continue. Want to create a sketch on our front plane. This is known as the XZ plane here. Okay, that. If I go to my drawing, right now I have this shape right here. However, if we zoom in, obviously there's some material that needs to get chopped off here. So I'm going to incorporate that in this sketch, and we can see that there's just this little area that will need to be filled in, and then we have these two lines at different angles, and lastly these two circles. I'm going to create some external geometry. I'll project this line, and actually I'm going to rotate around and just project this whole face. The shortcut for this is GX. Now I'm going to make a line, and I'll make another line that's at a slightly different angle. I'll type GC for my circle command again. Right click to exit. Click on the point and the circle, T for tangent. And again, dimension distance from the very bottom, that should be 66 millimeters. Now I just need those angles from the axis to here, should be 35. However, it looks like it is trying to go the opposite direction, so I think I'll have to do 180 minus 35, and probably the same thing here. Yep, I'll have to do 180 minus 45. Now I just need to constrain the diameters here, so I'll click on this, auto constrain radius or diameter. This diameter should be 26 times 2, and this circle, this hole, should be 30 millimeters. So now everything says fully constrained. If I exit out of my sketch, though, you see that we still need to add in a couple more lines. So as I explained before, I want to extend this line here so we can make a profile right here to remove this extra material. And then I also need to connect these 2 points so we can actually make this into a profile that we can extrude. I'm going to go to my polyline command. I'll create a line here to here, here to here to here. Now we do see that we are not fully constrained anymore, and that is because this line is not defined. I'm going to click on that and then that and make them parallel. Let's continue on now that we have this sketch. So I'm going to click on pad. I'm going to refer to my drawing here. And it looks like this area in here goes all the way to this edge. So for my limit, I'm going to say it's 130, obviously divided by 2. And then for the width, it looks like right here, that's going to be 15 millimeters. I'm going to look at the top. Looks like we are going the wrong way. So I'll reverse that now. Now I'm going to say 2 dimensions right here, and you can hopefully kind of see what's going on here. So our first dimension, the length, is going in our main direction, as you can see right here. Now this second length is going in the opposite direction. Something that's cool though is you can make the second length negative. So as we said before, 130 divided by 2, that brings me to this edge over here. Now second length, I'm going to say negative, and then I'll put a parenthesis, 130 divided by 2 minus 15, because I want it to be 15 millimeters short of this edge over here. So I can hit enter there. So there's our result. I'm going to OK that. We do see we have some extra material over here. So I can actually just click on that, click pocket, through all. Okay. And that cleans that up in a pretty easy way. Now I'll go back to our sketch, click on pad, and same thing, it's trying to go the wrong direction, so I will reverse that. Go back to our drawing. Should be 150 across the center line, and then the inside face is 90 across the center line. So I will do, basically our direction is right here, so we have 150 divided by 2, and then the opposite direction is trying to go this way, but I'm going to say negative 90 divided by 2. So that's actually going to be going this direction. 150 divided by 2, negative 90 divided by 2. We can see our preview. Now that part is all set, but we see down here that this is all one face. In our part, we don't have that, and that's because we need to remove this. I'll click pocket, make sure it's through all, and when in doubt, you can always just say through all symmetric. Now we're all set to mirror our part. So probably the easiest way of doing this, right click on any of your pads or pockets, select solid features right here, and that will automatically pick these pads and pockets and holes and fillets, but it will not select the sketches. And that's important because if I just went and clicked on the first one and held shift and selected everything, if I tried to mirror that, it's going to throw a fit. There you go. It says null shape. It gives you a preview, but something with the sketches just gets messed up. So once again, right click on your last feature, select solid features. Now automatically mirrored pops up, so I'll click there. For my plane, I will select a reference, or you can just hover through to see which plane you want. But you can always just select reference and zoom out and pick your plane. So OK that, and we don't get any errors. I can open up my mask property macro. I have a link in the description for how to get that. And I have carbon steel selected, grams is selected. So I'll pick on my body here. Make sure you pick the body, not just one of the features, because you can see it changes. So I'll pick on the body up here, and here's my final answer. I can select that, and I can copy that and paste it to submit wherever I want. I hope this was helpful, and I hope you learned something.